As we move through life, especially as the years go by, there's a truth that we often miss until we find ourselves in the quiet of our own company. The truth is this: solitude is not a sentence, it is a gift. It is not something to be feared or avoided, but rather something to be embraced as a source of strength. When we think of solitude, we often associate it with loneliness, with loss, with sadness, but I want to challenge that way of thinking. Solitude does not have to mean sadness. In fact, it can be a sanctuary, a place where we are given the space to truly reconnect with ourselves, to reflect on our lives, and to find a deep peace that can only come when we are still and quiet before the Lord. In our younger years, we are often caught up in the hustle and bustle of life. Our days are filled with commitments, responsibilities, and relationships. We find our worth in the company of others, in the busyness, in the noise. But as we age, that pace slows down. Some of the voices that once filled our homes, our hearts, our minds, may no longer be there. And it is in those moments, when the house is quieter and the days are longer, that we are faced with the challenge of how to embrace that solitude. We can choose to see it as a void, an emptiness, a space to be filled with distraction, or we can choose to see it as an opportunity, a time to reflect, to heal, and to grow. In solitude, we find the room to reconnect with God, to listen for His voice in the quiet places of our hearts. It is in these moments that we are often most aware of His presence, most attuned to His whispers. When the world around us fades away, when the noise dies down, we can hear the truths that have always been there, waiting for us to listen. We hear that we are not forgotten, that we are not alone, that our lives still matter, that our stories are still unfolding. This is not sadness. This is strength. This is the strength to stand firm in the knowledge that we are loved, that we have purpose, and that we are never abandoned. Solitude also gives us the freedom to rediscover who we are, outside of our roles as parents, spouses, or caretakers. In the busyness of life, we often lose sight of ourselves. We become so wrapped up in the lives of others that we forget the things that once brought us joy, the dreams we once held close. Solitude gives us the space to rediscover those passions, those dreams, and to live them out once again. It gives us the time to read the books we've always wanted to read, to take up the hobbies we've put aside, to write the stories we've been waiting to tell. We are not defined by what we've done for others or by the labels the world has placed upon us. We are defined by who we are in Christ, and in solitude we can begin to reconnect with that truth. And then there is the simple peace that comes from being alone. It's a peace that is not dependent on circumstances or people, but a peace that is rooted in the stillness of our own hearts. It is a peace that transcends the noise of the world and the chaos of life. It is the peace that comes from knowing that God is with us, even in the quiet, even in the stillness. When we embrace solitude, we are not just alone. We are in the presence of the one who knows us best, who loves us most, and who calls us His own. So, my friends, let us not fear the quiet. Let us not fear the solitude that comes with age. Let us instead embrace it as a time of renewal, of strength, and of peace. Let us see it for what it truly is, not a sign of loneliness, but an opportunity to grow closer to God, to rediscover ourselves, and to find joy in the stillness. For it is in the quiet moments that we often hear the loudest truths, and it is in those moments that we discover the strength to continue on. In this journey of life, especially as we grow older, there's a quiet truth that begins to settle in our hearts, one we may have sensed all along, but only fully understand in this season. It is this: that what truly matters in our relationships is not how many people surround us, but how deeply we are known and loved by just a few. The world often chases numbers: how many friends, how many likes, how many contacts in a phone book. But the soul doesn't count like the world counts. The soul longs for authenticity, for presence, for connection that reaches past the surface and touches the heart. In our younger years, we may have moved through circles of acquaintances, large gatherings, full calendars, and those moments had their time and their purpose. But now there is a quiet wisdom that begins to emerge, a deeper understanding that one honest conversation, one loyal friend, one kind neighbor, can hold more weight than a room full of shallow company. It's the difference between noise and music, between company and companionship. Some may look around at this age and feel a sense of loss, seeing fewer people in their lives than there once were. But I want to offer this. Perhaps what you've lost in quantity, you've gained in clarity. You've come to know who truly stands with you, who listens when you speak, who sees you not for what you do, but for who you are. Those relationships, though few, are priceless. And sometimes those companions may not look like what we expected. It could be a neighbor we once passed by without noticing, now become a cherished friend. It might be a grandchild who surprises us with their depth. Or it could be someone we met recently who, without the years of history, brings fresh energy, a new perspective, and a willing heart. The form that companionship takes may change, but its essence remains the same: to love and be loved, honestly and well. There's also something deeply freeing about no longer needing to perform in relationships. We're not here to impress anymore. We've lived, we've learned, we've made our mistakes, and we've grown through them, and now we can show up as we are, without pretense, without masks. And that kind of honesty, that kind of openness, draws the right people closer. It creates space for genuine connection, for relationships that aren't built on convenience, but on commitment. Some of the richest friendships I've ever witnessed came late in life. They weren't based on shared history or obligation, but on mutual respect, shared values, and a simple willingness to be present for each other. A friend who calls not out of duty, but desire. A neighbor who checks in not because they have to, but because they care. These are the threads that mend the soul's fabric. These are the people who remind us that we are not walking alone. And sometimes we need to be that kind of companion to someone else. There are people around us, perhaps quiet, perhaps overlooked, who are longing for the same connection we are. When we reach out, when we make space in our lives for others, we don't just bless them, we bless ourselves. That's the mystery of love. It multiplies the more we give it away. So don't measure your life by the number of people around you. Measure it by the depth of your relationships, by the love that flows between hearts, by the kindness that echoes in everyday conversations. You may have fewer voices in your ear, but if they speak truth, encouragement, and care, then you are richly blessed. For in the end, it is not the crowd that sustains us, but the quiet strength of love that shows up, stays close, and reminds us we matter. When we talk about community, many of us picture the past. Porch swings and neighbors dropping by unannounced, church potlucks, shared meals, and voices echoing across backyards. And for some, that kind of closeness may feel like it's faded with time. The world has changed, people move more, families are scattered across states and even continents, and we in our later years may feel at times that the world has moved on without us. But I want to tell you something from the bottom of my heart. Community is not gone, it's simply taking new form. And connection is still very much alive for those willing to reach for it. It's true, the ways we connect have changed. We may not always find it in the places we once did, but that doesn't mean it's out of reach. In fact, this chapter of life opens doors to entirely new kinds of fellowship, friendships and circles that we never expected, growing in the most unlikely places. Think of the person who signs up for a book club at the library and suddenly finds herself laughing, debating, and sharing life with people she's never met before. Or the man who joins a walking group and finds himself not only getting exercise, but finding brothers and sisters in the rhythm of each step, sharing stories between breaths. These are new ways that community is being born, not out of obligation, but from a shared longing to belong, to be seen, to be known. Even the online world, yes, that sometimes confusing, fast, moving thing we once thought was just for the young, is now becoming a place of connection for many in their 60s, 70s, and beyond. There are groups where widows encourage one another, where veterans swap stories and prayers, where grandparents share recipes and photos and lift each other up through life's joys and sorrows. These are not shallow digital exchanges. They are real human hearts reaching across miles to say, "You're not alone." We must never underestimate the power of a shared experience, even in a new setting. A community center, a Bible study, a volunteer opportunity, a ceramics class, a Zoom gathering of folks reading scripture together, separated by geography but united in spirit. These are sacred places too. These are the modern wells where we gather to draw up the water of companionship. And here's something beautiful about finding connection later in life. The walls are lower, the masks fewer. We're not trying to impress. We're simply trying to be. And that authenticity draws people in. It invites others to drop their guard and sit at the same table, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. We find we don't have to be perfect to belong. We only need to be present. So I urge you, don't wait for connection to come knocking on your door. Open the door of your own heart. Walk out into the spaces where others are waiting too, maybe just as nervous, maybe just as hopeful. You might be surprised at the warmth you find. The world is full of people looking for the very thing you're longing for: honest, loving connection. You see, community isn't just about the number of people gathered. It's about the spirit in which we gather. It's about creating new homes for the heart, even if the architecture looks different than it did years ago. Because no matter your age, no matter your story, you are not done building relationships. You are not done being needed. You are not done being loved. There is still room at the table, and someone out there is hoping you'll take your seat. There comes a point in life, a quiet, reflective place, where the distractions thin out and the mirror grows clearer. And in that stillness, we begin to look inward. We begin to ask, who am I now? Not the parent, not the spouse, not the employee or caregiver, but the person who remains when all the roles are set down. And if we dare to sit with that question, not run from it, we find a gift waiting, the rediscovery of ourselves. For so long, we've poured ourselves into others. We've carried burdens, celebrated milestones, endured hardships, and met expectations. And all of that has shaped us, but it's also easy to lose ourselves along the way. Now, in this new season, we are given something rare, time to come home to who we are, not to feel forgotten, but to remember. To remember the passions that once made our hearts beat a little faster, the books we meant to read, the songs we used to hum, the talents that sat quietly on the shelf while life kept us busy elsewhere. This isn't about being selfish, it's about being whole, because there is no expiration date on purpose and no age limit on joy. The person you are is not finished growing. In fact, in this chapter, you may grow deeper than ever before. You begin to see that you don't need to be constantly surrounded by others to feel alive. You start to enjoy your own company, not out of necessity, but out of appreciation. You realize your thoughts matter. Your voice matters. Your dreams still matter. It's a powerful thing to become your own companion, to wake up and not dread the quiet, but welcome it, to cook a meal for yourself not because you have to, but because you are worth the effort. To go for a walk and notice the way the light falls on the leaves, the way the wind speaks through the trees, and feel somehow that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. There's a sacred dignity in discovering that you can be enough for yourself, that you can be a source of comfort, of wisdom, of peace. And in that rediscovery, something beautiful happens. When we are filled from within, we stop looking for others to complete us. We begin to connect with people not from need, but from overflow. We can love more freely because we are not loving from emptiness. We are loving from wholeness. We are no longer seeking someone to fix the loneliness, but rather welcoming those who enrich the solitude. Some of us are picking up paintbrushes again. Some are returning to the piano or the garden or the journal. Some are simply allowing themselves to rest, to heal, to breathe in the grace of this moment. And through it all, the heart begins to speak again, not loudly, not urgently, but gently, like a friend who's waited patiently to be heard. You are not a shadow of who you once were. You are not just a memory of past roles and responsibilities. You are a soul with depth, a person with wisdom etched by time, and a spirit still capable of wonder. Don't let the world tell you otherwise, for there is no companion more faithful than the one you become to yourself, rooted in grace, rich in experience, and quietly alive with the joy of simply being. I know that for many, the thought of technology brings a kind of hesitation, a sense of being left behind, of feeling out of step with the pace of this ever-changing world. It's easy to look at the smartphones, the laptops, the tablets and wonder, where do I fit into all this? But I want to offer a different perspective. I want to suggest that technology, far from being a wall that separates us, can actually be a bridge, a powerful tool that connects us in ways that were never possible before. Think of how many people we love live far from us now, children in other states, grandchildren scattered across the country, or even the world. Years ago, staying connected with them might have meant waiting by the mailbox or planning long, tiring trips. But now, with the press of a button, we can see their faces, hear their laughter, even share in their daily lives. A video call may never replace a hug, but it can hold a moment of grace, a glimpse of a toddler's smile, a story from a college dorm, a birthday song sung across miles. These are real connections, no less sacred because they travel through wires and screens, and it doesn't stop with family. I've met people in their 70s, 80s, even 90s who are using technology to form friendships they never thought possible. Joining Bible studies over Zoom, writing memoirs with others in online workshops, even finding support groups that gather not in church basements, but through shared spaces online, where prayer, encouragement, and hope are passed like lanterns from screen to screen. These are not second-rate relationships. They are lifelines formed through courage and a willingness to adapt. Yes, there may be a learning curve. Yes, it may feel awkward at first. but so did many things in life, didn't they? Remember learning to drive, or trying to assemble your first toy on Christmas Eve, or figuring out how to balance a checkbook? We didn't give up then. We don't have to give up now. There are grandchildren eager to teach, community centers that offer free classes, friends who are just a phone call away and would gladly sit with you to help you learn. And once you take that first step, a world opens. You can join a Bible reading plan with someone across the ocean. You can listen to sermons from pastors you admire. You can watch a grandchild's school play or send an encouraging message to a friend who's going through a hard time. Technology can become a ministry, a way of loving people where they are, even when they are far away. And it's not just about staying connected. It's also about continuing to grow. There are podcasts that stir the heart, books to be downloaded in seconds, music that can lift the spirit in a moment. You can explore museums, attend classes, learn a new language, or simply watch the sunrise over distant lands, all from your chair. Not because you're too old to travel, but because wonder has no expiration date, and neither does learning. You see, technology is not meant to replace human touch. It's meant to extend it, to remind us that connection doesn't end at the front porch, or at the retirement party, or when the nest empties. It continues. It adapts. It finds a way. So don't be afraid of the screen. Don't believe the lie that it's too late or too complicated. You have navigated life's hardest seasons. You have loved deeply, served faithfully, and learned many new things along the way. This is just one more tool, a bridge waiting to be crossed, and who knows, on the other side of that bridge, you may just find the voice you've been missing, the friend you didn't know you needed, or the reminder that even in a digital age, love still travels best heart to heart. There's a quiet lie that slips into the hearts of many as they grow older. The idea that life is winding down, that decisions no longer belong to them, that joy is something reserved for the young. But I want to speak directly against that today. Aging does not mean surrendering your power. It doesn't mean your purpose has passed. No, my friend, aging is not the closing of a door. It is the opening of a new one. And on the other side of that door is agency, dignity, and joy that the world cannot define or diminish. You still have choices. You still have a voice, and your life, yes, right now, is still yours to shape. There's something deeply powerful about realizing that you are not just along for the ride. You are the one holding the pen. Maybe you can't control every circumstance, but you can decide how to meet each day. You can choose gratitude. You can choose grace. You can choose to get up, to reach out, to learn something new, to speak truth, to love deeply. That is agency, and it doesn't fade with age, it grows more rooted. I've met people who in their 70s started painting for the first time, people who took a trip they'd only dreamed of in their 80s. A woman who decided at 90 to write letters of encouragement to young mothers in her church because she remembered how hard those years were. None of them did it for applause. They did it because they understood something, that life doesn't ask for our permission to move forward, but we can decide how to walk with it. And joy, well, that's not some fleeting feeling reserved for birthdays or holidays. Joy is deeper than that. It's a way of seeing the world. It's choosing to find beauty in the ordinary, a sunrise, a kind word, a quiet afternoon with a good book or a warm cup of coffee. It's laughing at yourself when you forget where you put your glasses, only to find them on your head. It's dancing in your kitchen just because your favorite hymn came on the radio. These aren't just small pleasures. They are sacred moments, and the older we grow, the more clearly we can see just how holy they are. So many of us spend our younger years chasing approval, chasing security, chasing time. But now we get to rest in the truth that we don't need to chase anymore. We can simply be. We can delight in what we have. We can live each day not out of fear of what's to come, but in celebration of what is still possible. Aging with agency also means knowing when to say yes and when to say no. It means honoring your boundaries, trusting your wisdom, and listening to that still, small voice inside that says, "This matters," or "Let it go." You've earned that wisdom. You've walked through storms and valleys to gain it. And it's not meant to sit quietly in the corner. It's meant to be lived out loud, shared with those around you, offered as a lantern to those still finding their way. So, don't let the world put you on a shelf. Don't let anyone tell you that your best years are behind you. You are still becoming. You are still unfolding. And there is still great beauty in the chapters yet to be written. You see, age is not a sentence. It's a statement. A testimony of grace, of endurance, of life fully lived. And every breath you take now is an invitation to choose joy, to walk in your God, given dignity, and to keep living, not merely surviving, but truly living, with purpose, with courage, and with joy that no one can take from you. As we stand together at this moment in life, let us remember something vital. Age is not a barrier to a meaningful life. It is not a reason to withdraw, to settle for less, or to believe that we no longer have a place in the world. On the contrary, it is a time of new beginnings, of rediscovering who we are, of embracing who we've always been, and of realizing that the journey isn't over. It's simply evolving. We've spoken of the strength in solitude, not as something to fear, but as something that allows us to reconnect with our true selves. We've talked about the power of relationships, not in terms of quantity, but in the richness of the few that truly matter. We've recognized that community can still be ours to claim, even if it looks different than it did in our earlier years. We've explored the beauty of rediscovering our passions, our talents, and our purpose, remembering that it's never too late to begin again. We've seen how technology can be a bridge, not a wall, connecting us to those we love and opening new doors to learn and grow. And finally, we've embraced the truth that with age comes agency, a renewed capacity for joy, and the ability to shape the life we still have ahead of us. My friends, you are not alone. You are not irrelevant. You are not too old to make a difference, to change, or to experience joy in new ways. You are a vessel of wisdom, of strength, and of love. The world needs you, perhaps now more than ever, because you carry with you a perspective that only comes with experience. You are a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. So let us move forward together, not with fear or regret, but with courage and with hope. Let us redefine companionship, not just with others, but with ourselves. Let us age not with resignation, but with agency, with purpose, and with joy that radiates outward. There is much still to do, much still to learn, and much still to give. You are not defined by the years behind you, but by the life that remains before you. So live it fully, live it well, live it with hope, with purpose, and with the knowledge that the best of life is not behind you. It is still unfolding.